Hello, Dawn. Thank you so much for supporting We Are Orange campaign.
You're very welcome.
You've been wonderfully active in using the orange theme to raise awareness. How did people react? Were they always asking why orange?
Yes, it was really good in terms of staff support. I sent an email out to everybody and I used your words in terms of explaining what the campaign was about, because I don't think many people had heard about the campaign and what people are trying to do in terms of creating this awareness. So I'd said I wanted help and support to turn all our projects in Bolton orange for the day and to try and get everybody involved. So staff was amazing. I turned up every project I went round. I just got met by the sea of orange, which was absolutely fabulous. But one of the things that was really good, because contractors were coming in and different things and going, what's going on? Is this a new uniform? And so it was really good because it then opened up those communications of what we were doing and why. And for me, it was really nice to hear the staff actually explaining it without me having to actually say anything, but me being able to stand back and listen to the conversations that they were having. So they'd actually got what we were trying to do. And it was really empowering that to hear and see that.
Yes. So We Are Orange, people started talking about it, which is what we really want.
Yeah, exactly.
So is domestic abuse talked about a lot in normal process of your work?
It is. I mean, we have a women's hostel as one of the hostels that we actually look after. And we also do the A-bed services, which is a bed for every night. So we have lots of women that walk through our doors at any particular time that have, been experience of domestic abuse. We do have some people who come to us who are still involved in the partners and the relationship, who are actually going through domestic abuse and look to us for help and support and guidance. So it is something that we deal with, unfortunately, on a daily basis. It is something that we don't always have the knowledge and expertise, but have wonderful partnerships with other people that can help and support us as well. We do a lot of training with staff in terms of having that knowledge to be able to sit and listen and, be non-judgmental, because when somebody's going through that abuse, they might not be ready to walk away, and that's the hardest decision for them. So we basically have lots of different levels in terms of people who are experiencing domestic abuse, people who've come out the other side of domestic abuse, and people who are ready to start afresh.
Thank you. You answered my questions that I was going to ask, but obviously you have extensive experience with the Adullam Housing Association. Tell us a little bit more about the Housing Association, please, and what is your main role?
Adullam Homes is based in Birmingham, and I work for Bolton Bridges, which is part of Adullam Homes. Bolton Bridges is responsible for single-person homeless hostels in Bolton. And we have lots of projects in terms of, so my role is an operational and property services manager. So I manage Mwamba House, Charlie Lord Road, Fleet House, Next Step Project, Bridgman Place, Gypsy's Tent, Stone Church. So I oversee all those, and I have the team leaders who are the managers within the projects, but it's my job to make sure that the service works across them all.
Thank you. Wow. So tell us a little bit more about your work, particularly with victims of abuse or survivors of abuse in the women's hostels.
So in the women's hostel, it's one of those places where we never know from one day to the next who's going to walk through the door. Everybody has their own story. Everybody's an individual. We've had people from domestic abuse who are come to us as we've got refugee status. So they come into the country as refugee status, and then they become abused for one reason or another. Sometimes it's by extended family members. Sometimes it's by, unknown to them, who's, they think they're doing the right thing, or somebody's taking them in, different things. We have people who've been leaving care and have been abused by past relatives and family. And sometimes when they actually leave care and go into the world independently, sometimes the past experiences then come to the front. We have some people who are leaving relationships. We've seen an uptake in recent of domestic abuse from same-sex relationships as well, which we've been working with. We recently had quite a severe case at one of our hostels where we had a female, unfortunately, had gone through a quite bad abuse, and the police was involved and different things, and we supported her in terms of getting the medical help and support that she needed, not only the physical help, but actually she needed medical intervention. We have some people who have been street workers and who have been abused in that sense. We have so many different cases in terms of the different types of domestic abuse and abuse that goes on to women who come through our doors. So it's very difficult to kind of sum up in terms of the work we do, because it's not a one size fits all. It's whatever that individual person wants, we will support them with. And we try to do it on their terms and in terms of their speed, as and when they want that help and support. There isn't a right or a wrong answer. We want them to know that, if that makes sense. We want them to know that this is your life, it's your walk, it's your path, but we're here with you on every step of that whole journey.
The work you do is incredible. I mean, the support is absolutely fantastic for people who have nowhere else to go, really, you know. What is your capacity? I mean, how many people can you actually look after?
So in the female hostel, it's a 20-bed female hostel, but then on the other hostels where we have, where it's sort of like an A-ben, we have, so they're not necessarily a female hostel, they're like a mixed, so you might have a female in one room and a male in the next room and different things like that. We do try to work with somebody who's gone into sort of the A-ben projects, as they're referred to. If they've gone through domestic abuse and different things of abuse, we do try to get them into the female hostel so that we can give them the extra support and sort of support them that way. But in terms of capacity, we have 56 units in the A-ben projects and 20 in the female hostel. So, like I said, we never know from one day to the next who's going to be coming through the doors. So in terms of the numbers, it fluctuates because we don't know who we're going to be supporting.
Listening to you, to me, it feels like your work is quite a lot what domestic abuse charities are doing. So what is the difference between your association and your work and what, for example, Fort Alice would be doing?
Yeah, so we do work quite closely with Fort Alice. Fort Alice is one of the partnerships that we actually work with, and we're always very grateful for their help and support. They do an amazing job. Our emphasis is to get people who have gone through one form of abuse or another, to get them into some permanent accommodation. So our primary sort of goal is to find them somewhere to live and to make sure that they're living independently. So whereas Fort Alice, it's primarily set up to give them that support in terms of the domestic abuse, ours has a different emphasis. Ours is about accommodation and move on, with the arm of supporting them through the domestic abuse as well.
Yeah, so that's next step. So
yes.
Fort Alice is going to support them come out of that relationship, yes. And then for permanent accommodation, you come in, and yeah. I believe Foundation comes in when we are now actually trying to help them find work. So
that's
then
right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's brilliant. It's something concrete that's happening.
Yeah.
It's what next after you have survived a horrible situation.
We had a young lady, and she was very young, I've got to honestly say, and she had been sort of abused in a partnership relationship, and she'd basically come to us, and she had done work with Fort Alice, and she came to us, and she'd gone back to college, and she's actually left us now, and she's living independently, and she's doing a nursing qualification.
Oh. Brilliant. That is
so it's just really, you know, in terms of being able to see people taking that next step and actually being able to turn their life around and having that independence and that confidence to be able to do something is amazing.
Brilliant. You have also put together a training with the help of your team members. So could you tell us a little, share the evolution of the training, and what triggered it? Why did you put that training together?
We had a lady that had been she'd been a sex worker, and she was violently raped, but she hadn't disclosed to anybody because she was ashamed and thought she would be judged because of her lifestyle choices. And it was only when the police had actually come and they'd asked to speak to her and different things. And we still didn't know why the police were there, because obviously the police can't disclose if she doesn't want to disclose. We then basically found out down the line, because she actually came to us because she was going to the rape crisis unit and wanted somebody to go with her. And that was when we found out what had actually happened. So we'd had a discussion with the staff and everything else, and we thought, why did she not feel comfortable coming to us? What was the barrier of why she didn't come to us and talk to us? So what we decided to do was kind of do some training around working with our staff in terms of being able to have the correct language and the correct sort of conversations with people to break down any of those barriers that would have been put there, and to give our staff the tools and the guidance to be able to have those individual conversations and know what to say and how to support somebody who's either gone through that or is going through to a rape crisis unit. You know, how do you bring somebody in as a support coordinator, and you might train them in the processes and they might have like empathy and different things, but to actually support somebody through something so traumatic and to be able to protect staff as well and give them the power to be able to do that, we felt it was really important. So we worked with a psychologist who put together a training package for us, and we made sure all the staff got the training and development to be able to do that.
Oh, brilliant. Yes, I was going to ask you whether you got external support.
Yes,
or you...
we did. Yes.
So has domestic abuse always been on your radar since beginning of your time with the Housing Association, or has it evolved over time?
It's always been on our radar to work with obviously people fleeing domestic violence and domestic abuse. In terms of domestic abuse, it's always been there. It's always something that we work with. It's always something that we're always going to try and help and support everybody. I think it's become more prominent and more awareness is created around it, which is a wonderful thing, to have the awareness and people to be able to feel that they can talk and come to us about it. I think the numbers have increased. I think COVID had a lot to do with that in terms of what we're dealing with now in terms of the aftermath of that, unfortunately. It has always been Adullam's way of being able to work with people from, domestic abuse and to be able to support them, not only in Bolton Bridges, but across Adullam as well. In terms of, we do have a domestic abuse policy for staff. We do have Westfield counselling for anybody that wants that help and support. So we do try and put everything in place in terms from an organisational point of view to recognise not only with the client group we work with, but the staff and our colleagues as well.
Thank you. So as you know, SheInspires Foundation is always looking at ways of helping survivors back into work. So for the women you support, is that an issue, or are they already working?
When they come to us, they're actually not in work. They come to us in a state of crisis, so they haven't got employment, they haven't got anywhere to live. So it's literally starting from the basics. It's gaining that trust. It's gaining a lot of them haven't even got a source of income, any benefits, nothing, absolutely nothing apart from the clothes that they have on the back. So we basically try to get people so they're in a state of well-being before we even try to look at work and what they're aspiring to do with their lives in terms of different people, have different goals and different aspirations. It could be that somebody is trying to get back into work, or somebody wants to go into college, like I mentioned the lady before. One thing we have done, we set up our Fleet House, our women's hostel. We set up, and it's run by volunteers, is Becky's Boutique. Now, Becky's Boutique is a shop, and Becky's Boutique is a shop with a difference because you don't need any money for this shop.
Okay.
So people can go into this shop, and in the shop there's everything from cosmetics, clothing, shoes, bags, you name it, it's there. And what we try to do is somebody is looking for employment and different things, they work in the shop, they work in Becky's Boutique to give them that that confidence to deal with people and to deal with sort of questions, and that having to build up the skills, and then they can actually utilize that going on and looking for actually a job in the outside world.
That's brilliant. Do you think we foundation could really work with Becky's Boutique, because we are looking at this? This is something that we'd like to do, helping survivors back into work, and this would be really nice association for us as well. And
we're always looking for volunteers, especially at Fleet House. And one of the other projects that we actually do, and again, it's for, you know, survivors of domestic violence, we have what we call art therapy. So we have again at Fleet House, we have an art room, and we're always in this, like, in terms of the art room, it's more as an arts and crafts room. So we have sewing machines, we have everything, we have mindfulness, colouring, to anything. So we're always asking for people to come and just spend time with some of our ladies that are actually wanting to build up the confidence in terms of just the simple communication skills. So in terms of getting somebody back into working and getting those skills built up, we would gladly work with the foundation to open the doors to evolve that.
Brilliant. Thank you. Again, coming back to our objectives and our aims and our mission, we are always looking to do more. And we are determined never to stop talking about domestic abuse, because being silent is not an option. And you know that, you know, we have to talk about it. Action is always better than talking. What should it be according to you? Because you've got such an experience, you've been working in this field. What should the action be, or actions?
I think it's a dialogue, and I think it's a difficult one. It's because it's like I was saying before, if somebody has either experienced it or has lived it or is a survivor of it, it's their journey. You know, there's no right or wrong journey. It's their journey. It's not my journey. I can't tell them what to do and what to say. So it is a difficult one, but it is about keeping that communication open and about giving people the confidence to be able to talk to people about it. You know, if somebody brings the conversation up with an individual and saying, you know, I have been a victim of domestic abuse, that they don't clam up and go, oh, I don't know what to say. That people have got the confidence and the tools to be able to have that dialogue, to be able to feel confident that, you know, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to ask questions because it's that person's journey. Ask them about the journey. Ask them where they are on their journey. To be able to do that gives that person the confidence to be able to open up to others as well.
Removing that stigma.
Yeah.
Shameful, you know, it's okay to talk, normalize conversations around abuse. People should be able to talk and ask. Yeah. And it should be all right. Yes.
And I do think there is still that stigma around it, that, and I think people are frightened that if somebody mentions to them that they've either been a victim of domestic abuse, they don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yes.
They're frightened of saying the wrong thing or making a mistake or thinking, I'm not a counsellor, I wouldn't know what to say or what to do. You don't have to be a counsellor to be a listener. You know, just to be there, to have a conversation with somebody, to let them know that you're there for them, you've got the back, and you're happy to listen. That's all they need.
Absolutely. And I think it's a dialogue two-way, because survivors of abuse don't want to talk about it because they feel perhaps that, you know, my fault, or you know, shame is attached, or can I be subjected to something like domestic abuse, whereas it can happen to anybody. So yeah, it's just, I think, the confidence building on both sides. It's okay to talk, it's okay to listen, and so normalize that conversation, really.
Yes.
Thank you. Coming to my last question. You obviously are a leader in your field, in your organization. who are the leaders in your life and your career who have inspired you?
I feel very blessed that I had very good upbringing in terms of my parents and their ethos on life and the take on life. I mean, I'm one of 8, so I came from a very large family. There was 8 children and my mum and dad in a very small 3-bedroom house. So we were a very close-knit family. And I think it became sort of, my mother was always she was very well known in the community. She did a lot of community work. She did a lot of, I mean, going back in the days where we used to have sermons, when we used to go to church and different things, and we used to all have the white dresses. The community we was brought up in, people didn't have the money and different things to buy the material and the dresses. My mum used to make patterns out of newspaper for the dresses for all the girls in the community and make the dresses. So the community became like my front room, if that makes sense. So a lot of people who was basically going through issues in life and different things got spoke about quite openly in my house and different things. And it was quite supported. And I think it was the way of my parents and it's the way I've been brought up. And it's just something that I've continued.
How lovely. Yes.
Mm.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure talking to you, really.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you do. Your work's amazing. I mean, wow. And it's good to know, because we don't really know. As far as I know, or I was aware, it was like, okay, Fort Alice and domestic abuse or Endeavour, but didn't know housing associations like yourselves are doing so much to support victims and survivors of abuse, and providing such a valuable service. So it's good to know. People should know this. So
by all means, if you want to come and have a tour around Fleet House and come and have a look at Becky's boutique and meet Becky. Becky is one of our volunteers, and I've known Becky a very long time. When I was in the past life and I was an area housing officer, she used to live in one of our properties, and I've known Becky since she was a child. So, and she's now volunteering, working with us, and Becky does a lot of work in her own time to support women of domestic abuse as well. So
yes, thank you very much. I would like to come in.
Yeah, I'll set that up. That'd be lovely to have you. Yeah.
Thank you.